Are you looking for a way to help your brick-and-mortar business drive more traffic and increase your sales? Look no further than the Receipt Paper Podcast. In this podcast, Joanne and Kyle provide their sage advice on how to make your brick-and-mortar store the hottest spot in town. Whether you're just launching a new business or trying to grow an existing one, these informative episodes will leave you inspired. In each episode, Joanne and Kyle take on a different topic related to running a successful business. They offer practical tips based on their own experience as owners of multiple brick-and-mortar locations. So whatever challenges you're facing, they have actionable advice for you. From finding a location and executing your build-out, to merchandising and customer experience, to sales and marketing, Joanne and Kyle have you covered. With helpful advice from these experienced entrepreneurs, you are sure to learn how to increase your sales and have your business running out of receipt paper in no time. Let's dive right in.
Well, hello and welcome to the Receipt Paper Podcast. My name is JoJo and I am thrilled that you are joining us for today's episode. In this episode, I got the opportunity to sit down with Brenda Cadman, a Canva verified expert, to pick her brain all about Canva. And she really gave some incredible, actionable tips for utilizing Canva. So whether you have no idea what Canva is, or you're just getting started in Canva, or you kind of feel like an expert, I really feel that there is a ton of valuable information that you can get inside of this episode. Brenda owned and operated a web development company for over 20 years before she retired in 2022. She was a professional organizer, and in 2014, she started using Canva to create branded materials for her business. And as much as she enjoyed the designing part, she also loved the organizing part, so she put the two together and decided to do Canva full time. She is currently a Canva verified expert and launched her first Canva course in 2019, where she shares her expertise with business owners just like yourself. I know that you are going to love this episode today. Like I mentioned, there is a ton of actionable tips that I actually really learned a lot from. I went and took action from some of these things right after I spoke with Brenda. So I know you're going to love this episode. Be sure to visit the show notes for all the links mentioned in today's episode, but I hope you enjoy. Well, hey there, Brenda. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to have you on the podcast.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Always love an opportunity to talk about Canva.
Yes. So, Brenda, why don't we give our listeners the opportunity to hear a little bit about you from your perspective? Would love for you just to share a little bit about yourself and your experience and your background.
Sure. I have been an entrepreneur for over 24 years. I started my business in the days before social media and when domain names were $100 a year to license or to register rather. So a lot of changes since then, but most of that time was spent running a website development company. I did that for over 20 years and I finally retired that business in fall 2022. Very difficult to run two different businesses at the same time. Finally acknowledged that I am not Superwoman and I cannot do it all. And I decided to retire that business so I could focus and go all in on Canva education and Canva and digital storage organization services. So that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome. So I love the entrepreneurial spirit for sure. That's awesome. So we've got a ton of different listeners. Some are, aspiring brick and mortar business owners. Some are already in business. So some may not be familiar with Canva just yet. So why don't you share with our listeners what Canva is and how they can use it or why they should use it?
And you and I were talking before we started recording about the fact that I do forget sometimes that not everybody in the world knows how to use what this program is, even though they have, such a significant number of monthly users at this point. But in essence, Canva it's a graphic design program, but it's more than that. It started out really as a design tool online to be able to create social media designs, some Instagram posts and Facebook posts and things like that. It really was a social media image driven kind of platform initially, but it's really evolved more into almost a business communication tool. You can use it now to create any sort of marketing material that you're probably going to need as a business owner. Perhaps not some of the larger scale printed pieces that businesses might need, but if you need anything for online promotion, for your marketing, for even PDF design, there is print and swag and things that you can do as well. But it basically is a tool to use to create any sort of marketing material that you might need to support your business.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first discovered Canva, I was like, this is amazing. I was like paying people for Instagram templates or to create graphics, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, I have all these templates like right in my fingertips, and it was pretty easy to use. So I was so excited when I discovered it, and we use it for everything today, from creating like flyers or just like informational brochures and things like that for our store. It's amazing what you can find in Canva for sure.
Absolutely. And I do think it's important to caveat that, though, by the fact that it's not a replacement for a talented graphic designer or brand designer. It's really important to invest in that piece in what your visual brand looks like, because it's not just about choosing pretty colors and a pretty image. You really do want to craft a brand identity that is, taking into consideration your ideal client and what your brand voice is, what your brand personality is, and all those good things that, translating that into a visual brand identity. It takes skill to do that, but we want to make sure we have something. If we're going to be creating social graphics for Instagram, for Pinterest, if we're creating flyers, if we're creating, I don't know if anybody creates business cards anymore, but whatever pieces we're creating, we do want to be working with something that's really, solid visually to begin with. But at that point, you're right. You don't necessarily, most small businesses are not in a position to have a graphic designer on call to create all of their Instagram posts, especially, aside from a budget perspective, just the turnaround time. Sometimes you need to get something out now, and you need to be able to be empowered to do that. So Canva is going to allow you to do that. And if you feel like you have no design skills, that is where them having a really robust template library is going to give you a starting point. You don't have to design from scratch. You can start with a template that was designed by somebody who has design skills and sensibilities and understands how to create something that looks balanced and all of those good things. So it's a really very powerful tool, but you have to know when to use it and how to use it in a way that supports your business, not necessarily replacing some of the key, providers that you might want to work with, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I know the branding side is definitely not my forte. And sometimes I create things in there. I'm like, this just isn't fitting with the brand at all. So having somebody that can guide you there, I think is essential for sure. That's great.
And to be
Well,
clear, I'm not that person. I don't do that. I myself did not create my own brand. I hired a brand designer to do mine. And then, you can use like the brand kit feature to set that up so you have your logos and your colors and your fonts and your images all at your fingertips. But I respect that position. I see them as very complementary as opposed to, being butting heads, which I think a lot of folks feel like maybe these are a competition, and some folks probably see it as competition, but I think they work really well together in tandem.
Yeah, absolutely. I do love the brand features in Canva. It makes it so easy to use. What is it? What all do they include?
So your logos, your colors, your fonts, your photos, your any brand graphics you use, and any brand icons that you use. And then there's also a spot there to provide notes about your brand voice. So for example, if you had team members and you wanted them to be aware at all times how we, the kinds of language, the kinds of terms and phrases we do use or don't use in social graphics, so that that's always available. When they're creating content, you can do that as well. I don't think that feature's used as extensively, probably more in larger teams when there's a lot of people who need to be kept on the same page. As a solo business owner, I don't tend to use that because I know my brand voice. But it's a nice feature to have. And all the image components that they added, that was introduced, I believe it was March 2023. 2023 that they added that. Before that, it was just logos, colors, and fonts. So it's nice to have a little more flexibility there in terms of the content that's right at your fingertips when you're designing.
Yeah, I love that because I know I have a lot of students that are like, oh, I kind of want to have my employee manage my social media.
Yeah.
And I think if you can, have all those things there, you don't have to constantly be checking their work to make sure it matches your brand, right?
And it's also a time saver. I'm all about what are the little ways we can save time, the little
Yes.
ways we can be organized. I enjoy the design side, but for me, I'm a lot more about the how do we do this faster and better so you can get in, create what you need, and
Yeah.
get out and go do the things that actually move the needle in your business. And as fun as it is going down the Canva rabbit hole, creating, social content is not necessarily the thing that's going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. You kind of touched on this, but I know a lot of people out there that are listening to this are like, I am not a graphic designer. I'm not going to be good at this. What advice do you have for people that maybe have truly no artistic or design, expertise?
Just take the pressure off yourselves. I mean, templates are your best friend, and you just have such an astounding number of them. It's a little shocking. It is overwhelming sometimes how many
Yes.
templates are available to you in the template library, but they also have filtering capabilities. So if if you go into the template library and you think, I want to create an Instagram post, you can start by searching on Instagram post, and you're going to have a far too many to sort through. But then you can then sort them down to say, okay, now I only want those that are portrait size, the taller size, of the newer size one. Okay, that's going to narrow it down further. Okay, now I only want ones that are kind of minimal or elegant in style. And you're going to start
Yeah.
to narrow down the results. You're still going to have a buttload of them to go through. I'm not going to lie. But if you have a sense going in of kind of what your aesthetic is, you can choose a few of them. You don't have to get a perfect suite of them up front. Try not to spend too much time doing it. But if you get a few of them and then you customize them using that brand kit, that part is going to be so key to ensure that what you're creating is looking brand consistent. It's going to be recognizable as belonging to your business and not just looking like a cookie cutter template.
Yeah.
But once you've customized it, then you're going to have a few to work with and you can build on it over time. But even if you're feeling like you don't have design skills, that a lot of that heavy lifting has already been done for you. You just need to
Yeah.
tweak it to keep it on brand. And, some folks are stronger at that than others, but if you have somebody in your business that maybe has a stronger design aesthetic, maybe that's a good task for them to do.
Yeah. 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 I was amazed by how simple it was. I mean, really, it was,
Mhm.
if you find the right template, I will agree with you. That's probably the hardest part, is searching
Yes.
all the templates. But, it's switching out some colors, changing the font, adding in the right photos. And it was a lot easier than I expected at first, for sure.
And don't overcomplicate it. Like I said, you don't have to find the perfect one. Um, I think it's not even a matter of finding the perfect one. It's that there are so many of them that could really do the job effectively. So just choose a handful of them. And don't worry about learning all the bells and whistles that are available to you in Canva. I think that's another mistake a lot of folks make when they're new to the platform is they feel like they have to know how to use every single feature and tool that's available to them. You're never going to. I don't know
Yeah.
every feature and tool because there's so much change and iteration
Yes.
and revising. And once you feel like you're really solid in an area, something changes, you're not going to be able to. And I also think it's important to just focus on some of those fundamentals of get that brand kit set up, be organized when you're creating your content so you don't lose things and you're not spending a lot of time looking for designs that you created 6 months ago, and just
Yeah.
understand how to get around and use some of the basic features and then start building on that knowledge after time.
Yeah. 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 I definitely agree with that. I mean, there's so many things I see pop up in Canva that I don't even know what they are, all these new things. I'm like, oh, I want to check that out. And I
Yeah.
never take the time to do that. But
Yeah, Magic Studio is a big old rabbit hole you can go
yeah,
down if you start playing with the AI features, and they're fun and it's nice to know how to use them. But I really believe form follows function. Don't use AI tools just because they're fun and they do cool things. Make sure it is supporting what you're trying to
yeah,
accomplish in the first place.
yeah. Speaking of, features and tools, since there's a lot of them, are there any that you feel are underutilized that people should be using?
Honestly, it's not the fancy stuff, but the projects area. There's a lot of people who are not creating custom folders, and
Mm,
even if you're on a free Canva plan, you can create unlimited folders. That didn't used to be the case. At one point, if you were on a free Canva subscription, you could only create 2 custom folders, and then you could do unlimited on the pro plan. But they changed that. They realized the value of folks being able to organize their content to be more efficient when they are designing. So at this point, whether you're on free or pro, you can create unlimited custom folders. And otherwise, if you are currently relying on your Canva homepage and you're just scrolling and looking at all the recent designs to find what you're looking for, that's going to get overwhelming very quickly. It might feel very manageable in the beginning if you only have a handful of designs, but you're going to get to the point that you have a ton of content in there, and not only a
yeah.
ton of content, but also a lot of content that might look very similar to each other. So you waste a lot of time opening what you think is the right design, and it turns out, oh, that's the wrong size, or that's a different version. Whereas if you have
Mm,
a custom folder system, your own little Canva filing cabinet that you've created, you're going to know exactly how to drill down and find specifically what you're looking for. It's going to save you a ton of time, a ton of
yeah.
frustration. Yet it's a feature that a lot of people don't use, or they just aren't comfortable knowing. Again, they want to try to get the perfect filing system from the beginning. Don't worry about that. Get a handful of folders that's going to give you some structure and save you some time. So it as sexy as magic replace and edit and all of those things? I mean, those are cool, but if you can't find what you're looking for, I don't care how fancy the effects are.
Yes.
So let's get you a
Yeah.
system.
Yes. Yeah. You were talking about being efficient and saving time earlier, and that's huge. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I was amazed. And for those that maybe haven't jumped in Canva yet, when you start creating designs, they all show up in the homepage under recent
Mhm.
designs. And yeah, as I use more and more and more, I mean, I find myself scrolling all over the place and searching, but you still can't find it. And I wasn't
Yeah.
labeling any of my designs, and it was just a big mess. And
I've
yeah,
seen
I
it
don't even
all.
think, yes, yes. So I think that's huge. And
Yeah,
yeah, folders. I love that. What other organizational tips? I know that's your forte here. So
it is.
any
Yes.
other organizational tips for everyone?
Another one I would say, even if you are, you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm using folders, I'm comfortable getting around Canva. One thing that even the most advanced Canva users tend to overlook is the fact that you can create custom folders for your images as well, not just your designs. And
Oh, wow.
Canva has an uploads folder, and that's usually where people will go to upload their own image content or their own video content. But what happens is that default uploads folder just becomes this bottomless pit of
Mm-hmm.
of media. And then if you uploaded an image, 2 years ago, good luck finding it. You're going to be
Yes.
scrolling until the end of time.
Uh,
And chances are you're just going to re-upload it. And I have seen accounts where the same set have been re-uploaded many, many, many times because it was faster to just find it on their computer and re-upload it than it was to try to find it in the uploads
oh
folder.
my
So
gosh.
stop using the uploads folder. It's one of the
I
biggest
had
tips I have.
no
You
idea.
know,
Okay. That is
move them,
awesome. Yeah.
create a similar kind of custom folder system. Create a top level folder under projects called images or photos, and then break it down into subcategories from there. You can nest folders, subfolders 10 levels deep. So thinking of a
Yeah.
filing cabinet, you're going to have your cabinet, you're going to have a drawer, you're going to have a top level section or category, and then you're going to have subsections. So if you know that you are looking for that one styled stock image that is, it's that blue notepad, that image that you have in mind, maybe you go, if you try to find that in your uploads folder, good luck, my friend. But if you know
Oh
that
my
you have an
gosh.
images folder, and under that there's a styled stock image folder, and under
Yeah.
that there's the particular site where you knew that image came from, and then there's a category under that called office supplies and notepads, and then you go under that, and there it is. If you have some sort of structure that you can, follow down to locate, you're not having to sort through a big old mess every single time.
Oh, That's huge. I'm gonna definitely go look into that like right away because I have fallen into the bottomless pit of the uploads
Yeah.
folder. Yeah. Yeah. And I do that
Yeah.
exact thing. I go to my desktop and just re-upload it when I need a photo
Yeah.
and
Because in the
oh
moment, that is the more efficient thing to do. But if we get some
yes.
systems in place, then we don't have to fall into that trap.
Oh, that's huge. That's a really good one. I like that. And I know some people out there are going to ask, so what is the difference between the free account, pro account? When do you know you need the pro account?
What a
What do
good
you advise
question. And it is, and I have been a user of the paid subscription for so long. I mean, right when they came out with Canva for work back in 2015, I'm like, yeah, I see the value, on I go. And you kind of forget what the differences are. And it's evolved as well in terms of what the differences are. Um, if you go to Canva's pricing page, canva.com/pricing, you'll get the entire breakdown. But that, again, that's overwhelming and people just want to know what are the big differences. So I would say
Yeah.
some of the biggest differences are that brand kit feature, that brand
Mhm.
capability and the ability to create brand templates within your own account. That's only going to be on Pro. The ability to use, so we talked about the Magic Studio features. One of the ones that is really important there, it's not a fancy photo editing tool. It's their resize and magic switch. So I'm not as concerned about the magic switch capability, but the resize. If you create an Instagram post and you want to be able to resize it quickly to a Pinterest pin and then to some other dimension, this resize is going to give you that capability to do it very quickly as opposed to having to recreate any sort of content. So that resize feature is only available there. If you're
Mhm.
downloading content designs that you've made in Canva that need a transparent background, that transparent background is only
Mhm.
available on Canva Pro. And that's not a feature that they indicate on the pricing page, which is
Ah.
a bit of an oversight in my opinion, because that is
Yeah.
actually really important to do.
Mhm.
And there's other little things like from an organizational standpoint, like I said, you're not going to have any difference in the number of folders, but your storage space allotment is going to be different.
Mhm.
You're only going to have 5 GB on free. You're going to have a terabyte on pro. If you have a lot of images, that could make a difference. If you have a lot of videos, that will definitely make a difference. So there's all
Yeah.
these kinds of differences in the features that are available. Certain
Mhm.
AI features are only available on pro, but that brand kit, if I had to choose, like my
Mhm.
top two features, you're going to need that brand kit, which is going to come with the ability to upload custom fonts as well. Because if you use a
Yeah.
font in your branding that is not available in
Mhm.
Canva's free plan, you're not going to be able to access it.
Gotcha.
So that brand kit and that resize feature, those two are going to be alone are
Yeah.
going to save the time and make it worthwhile to upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah. I use those every time I'm in Canva. And the
Yeah.
resize is awesome because I can, create a flyer for the in-store and then, resize it for Instagram and it makes life so much easier.
Well, and every social platform has its own ideal dimensions. It's not a one size fits all. So I'm sure
Yes.
anybody who's
Oh,
posting social content knows you need it this size here and slightly different over
mm,
here. And this
yeah.
gives you the ability to take something and not only resize one at a time, but to choose a bunch of different sizes that you need it to resize to and have it resize all of them in one go. And then
Yeah.
you can go through and kind of refine the placement of elements to make sure that it looks optimal. And you'll usually have to
Yeah.
do a little bit of that,
Yeah.
especially if you're going from one size to a really different sort of orientation. But that's,
Mhm.
again, it's just going to save you so much time. This is a tool.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this be a tool that sucks more time out of your day. I want to
Yeah.
see this make your life easier so you can get back to the things that you actually love doing.
Yes. I love it. Where do you see the future of Canva playing a role in
Oh
small
boy.
businesses?
Um, oh, if only I had a crystal ball. Well, I can tell you that the Canva Create event is coming up in May 23rd, so 2024. It's the first time it's gonna be stateside. I'm actually normally it's in Australia and I'm gonna
Wow.
go to it. It's gonna be in LA this
Nice.
year. Um, there will be more things that they will reveal there, things that I am not privy to yet. And I hope I will have a heads up on before I go down there, but there will be more updates and refining things, trying to make, trying to redesign how we work and design things. That, as far as speeding up our ability to create great looking content. I think there's going to be an increase in collaboration kinds of options and making it easier for us to create content with our team members. Definitely, they've been very much on board with the all the AI features, and I think they're going to have to continue to iterate there, because in order to try to compete with the focus on AI a lot of other companies have right now. But as far as the role it's going to play in business, I think it'll be more of the same. I think it's so integral now to how a lot of people are not only creating social content, but, if you're doing list building, you're creating your guides and your checklists in it. If you are creating any sort of online content that you're delivering, you're probably using Canva for that. It's not just about creating graphics now. It's really about what are all those touch points that we have with our customers and our potential customers, and how can I use a tool to create a really consistent brand experience and surprise and delight and all those good things. And I think Canva is increasingly playing a role in that.
Yeah, it's been a game changer for our business using it, and I can't imagine not having it at this point. So if you aren't using it, I recommend it. Yeah.
There's a lot of we all have way too many subscriptions, I think, these days, but it is one of, even if I wasn't specifically a Canva verified expert, and everything I do is obviously about Canva, but even if I was focusing on any other kind of business, it would be one of the tools that I don't think I could run my business without at this point.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Absolutely. So, yeah, I don't remember what I did really without it. So
paid a lot more for graphic design.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which, time and place for that as well. But this gives a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brenda, why don't you share how you help people with Canva and what your specialty is?
So I kind of offer a mixture of courses and services. The courses are just evergreen. If you are brand new to it and you kind of want to figure out, okay, how do I get around and actually navigate this and use all the tools? There's a beginner's course. And then there's one specifically about organization, which you might have picked up on is my favorite thing in the world to talk about. I'm actually a former professional organizer. My specialty was creating filing systems. So this just, Canva plus organization just has my heart. And then there's one as well about creating, those kinds of marketing materials that you might need. But sometimes folks don't want to do the organization themselves. Totally respect that. They want to go run their business. They just want it taken care of because they can't find anything, and it's wasting their time. It's wasting their team members' time. So I will often get hired to do the organization for them so they can just, take that off their plate, or to at least come in and say, look at what they're organizing and figure out what is going to make sense in terms of that folder structure and how can you be more efficient doing this, and give them an action plan so they can go execute on that.
I love it. Yeah, I highly recommend that. If that's something I could probably go back and do, it would totally be that, like have everything organized from the beginning. I think that's huge. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And you have a free resource for everyone. Did you want to share what that was?
Sure. I have a Canva organization roadmap. If you already have a bit of a hot mess account and, getting in there is frustrating and overwhelming and makes you want to tear your hair out, and you're not sure how to change that, what steps to take, this roadmap is going to give you kind of an overview of a framework you can take to start trying to get that under control.
Yeah, I'll be downloading that one for sure.
Awesome.
I will put all the links in the show notes for the free resource and just how to connect with Brenda if you want to. I'm sure you keep everyone up to date on the changes within Canva, right?
I send a weekly bulletin, basically, with usually a weekly kind of tip video, usually a very quick win. They tend to be under 3 minutes. Just here's one thing that you can do that's going to, how to use this tool or how to do something a bit better. And then when there are important new features, I tend to give a rundown.
Nice. Okay. That sounds super valuable. I'll be joining that as well.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Brenda, for your time today. Really appreciate all your expertise and what you're doing out there.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Are you looking for a way to help your brick-and-mortar business drive more traffic and increase your sales? Look no further than the Receipt Paper Podcast. In this podcast, Joanne and Kyle provide their sage advice on how to make your brick-and-mortar store the hottest spot in town. Whether you're just launching a new business or trying to grow an existing one, these informative episodes will leave you inspired. In each episode, Joanne and Kyle take on a different topic related to running a successful business. They offer practical tips based on their own experience as owners of multiple brick-and-mortar locations. So whatever challenges you're facing, they have actionable advice for you. From finding a location and executing your build-out, to merchandising and customer experience, to sales and marketing, Joanne and Kyle have you covered. With helpful advice from these experienced entrepreneurs, you are sure to learn how to increase your sales and have your business running out of receipt paper in no time. Let's dive right in.